Reppin' Philly ain't a choice, it's a way of life. PhillyGoat.com is your one-stop shop for Philly pride. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off. Look fresh, stay Philly, Philly Goat. Go Birds. What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly Sports History for August 7th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Thursday edition of the podcast, our first Eagles game day Thursday of the season. Looking forward to that. More on that game in a minute. But first, let's start with the Phillies. Tough one, 5-1. Not much went right. Ranger did not look good. The offense, other than Trey Turner, didn't show up. It happens. You won 2 out of 3. They're about ready to go on a 10-game road trip into Texas, Cincinnati, and then D.C. So I'm sure they were just like, let's get this game over with, get out of here. Unfortunately, though, you do need – these are games you could certainly win, and it might bite you in the butt come September and October. But a very successful homestand for the Phils, 4-2. Some very good positives. I am a little concerned with some of the starting pitching. I was talking to a guy last night. We were just like, now do we have to worry about Ranger as well? And I don't know if this is a direct result of the bullpen struggles where Topper felt he needed to keep the starters in longer. But you have Wheeler with shoulder soreness, who no structural damage, but his start got pushed back a little bit. I mean, it's worth noting. So maybe Alvarado coming back is going to help the bullpen and give these starters rest. Nola is coming back right around the corner. Maybe you go to a 6-man rotation for a little bit to rest these guys somewhat. Lots of questions and everything. Good news, though, the Mets did lose, so they end the homestand with a 2.5-game lead. So they were able to make up some ground on the Mets. They are off today as they're traveling to Texas. And then this weekend, it's Christopher Sanchez, Jesus Luzardo, and Zach Wheeler. But like I said, I'm a little concerned with just the overuse of the starting pitching, and we're kind of seeing that now. There is enough time left in the season, like I said, with Aaron Nola getting ready to come back, that you should be able to rest some of these guys, maybe skip a start here or there, save their arms. But we'll see. Things are looking good, though, so we'll take it. You need to have a decent road trip here. They never play well in Texas. Texas is like almost as bad as San Francisco for the Phillies. So we'll see what happens. But 5-1 loss, successful homestand, though. And now we're taking the show on the road starting tomorrow for 10 days. Luckily, it's not a West Coast trip, though. The other big news yesterday was after the game on Tuesday, Max Kepler was interviewed and said boo is the love language, I guess, of the Phillies fans. You could see he seemed a little defeated. He's trying to work through it. But the truth of the matter is he came in with the hype and he's not performing. And yes, Max, boo is our love language. And I saw a thing, and I don't know if it was new or not, but Jimmy Rollins somebody posted on Twitter, was going through on his Major League Baseball channel show and talked about playing in Philly and how we're just rentals and the fans are going to be here forever and they're not going anywhere. So they're not booing you because they hate you. They're booing you because they want you to do better. And it does take a special kind of person to realize that. So Max, we're not booing you because we hate you. We're booing you because we want you to do better. So that is our love language. If we didn't care, we wouldn't boo you. Trust me when I say there's been plenty of players over my life as a Philly sports fan that you're just indifferent about and you don't care. You seem like a nice dude, but you're not performing on the field, and we need you, especially in a season when it's World Series or bust. So that is our love language. Take that however you want it. Use it to motivate you. I don't know. But do something. Anything. Something. That's all we ask. All right, let's get into some housekeeping. New episode for the Clashing Conferences podcast drop. Yours truly was on the pod. We talked a little Phillies. We talked some Eagles. We talked favorite sports movies. So go check that out. That is now available wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. And I have to say, as a member of the Sports Fan Network, love being a part of it. It was a lot of fun being on there. Looking forward to being on future episodes. So go check that out. The Clashing Conferences on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. And check out your boy representing Philly well, I think, with a lot of Mets fans on there, it is what it is, but it was surrounded by Mets fans. And they didn't seem happy because their team is imploding. So be sure to check that out. Follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok. On Instagram, @PhillyJimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and continue to spread the word as we're growing this thing. Thank you. If you are a new listener, welcome. We're glad to have you. And before we get into trivia and some of the other things, big news yesterday out of the Sixers. And I personally love this. I know there are a lot of people, and I don't know demographic-wise where they are, but this was sort of leaked last year when they did the contract extension for Tyrese Maxey. The black Sixers jersey from the Allen Iverson era, specifically that 2000-2001 season, they're going to be coming back next year. Hopefully, they're not the City Connect. Hopefully, they're just kind of weaving them in periodically through the season. I love the black jerseys. The blue ones weren't bad, but I absolutely love those black jerseys. So that is big news for me. I'm loving it. So let me know your thoughts on that, though. I know, like I said, I feel like this might be on generational lines, but these black jerseys are hot. And that is the question of the day. What are your feelings on the Sixers bringing back those black jerseys? You like it? Don't like it? Hit me up on the Discord channel, the first link in the description. Back to the Future voice and text line, 267-495-8531. Any of my social media, but sign me up for the black jerseys. It is hard to believe. It's the 25th anniversary of that season, so I'm sure they're going to be doing a lot of throwbacks and tributes and whatever for that season, and I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I love those black jerseys. But let me know your thoughts on the Sixers black jerseys. All right, sticking with the Sixers. Yesterday's trivia question. In honor of the Sixers being named in 1963, I asked you, since 1963, what expansion teams have won NBA titles? A lot of these have won multiple ones, and the point of this was to show Sixers have not really, minus like one or two seasons and a couple runs, have not been really that good since they've been changed to the Sixers. Not suggesting we go back to the Nationals, just pointing out facts. But the expansion teams that have won since 1963, the Bulls, the Rockets, the Supersonics, who are now the Thunder, the Bucks, Cavaliers, Trailblazers, Nuggets, Spurs, Mavs, Heat, and Raptors. Thank you to everybody who reached out and put their guesses in. So 11 teams that were not around when the Sixers changed their names have won a championship. To the Sixers' credit, they have won two. But man, I would love a third. All right. So also recapping yesterday's question of the day before we get into the Eagles. I asked you, in this preseason, should the starters play? And this one was right down the middle. 50-50, yes. 50-50, no. And I think it comes down to whatever your feelings are. I personally would like to see them get some actual game reps. However, I totally get the argument of not playing them. But again, thank you to everybody who participated in the question of the day. We will have another one in this show, which happens to be, do you like the Sixers bringing back the black jerseys? Again, I would like to see them put them in the regular rotation, similar to what the Phillies do with the powder blues. I want to see them more than just once, because those things I love them. Absolutely love them. But let me know your thoughts on that. But it is Eagles game day, and we're not going to do our normal Eagles game day. Quick promotional plug. Stay tuned this fall for the Eagles pregame show. I'm going to take most of everything I did on my Sunday episodes and put it into that pregame show. I'll have a co-host with my brother. We are looking forward to that. But it is preseason, and it's likely the start, at least on offense, the starters will probably not be playing today. But the Bengals are having their starting offense play some series. So I'm looking forward to that. And here, I'm kind of looking at specific players. Like in preseason, again, it's practice. And in honor of AI and the black jerseys, we're talking about practice. This game doesn't mean anything. Absolutely nothing. But there are some things I want to look at, especially in a game situation versus NFL players. I want to know, I'm not sure if Andrew Makuba is playing or not, but I would like to see what he can do. Sidney Brown and really the whole secondary I'm looking at. I want to see what he has. I want to see Keely Ringo. I want to see Adoree Jackson, because that seems to be the hot spot there is Ringo, Jackson, and now they brought in Bennett. So I think you're going to have some competition there. Hopefully Vic Fangio gets his way and some of these starters do get to play. Looking forward to seeing Jahad Campbell. Hopefully he'll be in the lineup. Want to see what Jeremiah Trotter Jr. can do. While Nakobe Dean is out, that's also a spot that is up for grabs. And then on offense, I'm looking to see what Tanner McKee has. Limited NFL experience, but this is a good test for him, especially if the Bengals play their starting defense. I'm going to see what Kyle McCord can do. Rookie, see if he could somehow challenge Tanner McKee somewhat for that backup quarterback spot. And then defensive line depth. I think that is one of the... I think no matter what happens in the secondary, they'll be okay. But the defensive line depth is sort of a concern. So I want to see what Azeez Ojulari can do. I want to see what Josh Uche can do out there. And like I said, with the Bengals playing their first team, at least somewhat, I'm looking forward to it. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm not going to get into the keys to the game because I don't care if they win or lose. I just want to see somebody kind of separate themselves from the pack at those positions. And reports are Jahad Campbell is doing that. So I want to see how that translates on the field. And then specifically that whole secondary situation with Sidney Brown, Keely Ringo, Adoree Jackson. Want to see somebody just step up and kind of take control of that secondary. And then, of course, as the Cowboys turn, I guess, Jerry Jones was asked if he expects to see Michael Parsons for the opener against the Eagles, and he was like, I don't know. And he essentially said, that's up to him. So this story is not going away, and it couldn't happen to a better team. You got to love it. So we'll continue to follow as the Cowboys turn, as more information becomes available. But Eagles, Bengals tonight, looking forward to just seeing some of these players hopefully get a chance to separate themselves from the pack. All right, let's continue our top 5 for the first 25 of the century. This is the last day of negatives. And then we're going to go all positive as we're trying to will the Phillies to a World Series run. We're willing the Eagles back to the Super Bowl. We're willing the Sixers to stay healthy, the Flyers to make a playoff run. So we're trying to keep it positive, but we got to get the negative stuff out of the way. Yesterday we did the top 5 worst sports moments in Philly history. It was kind of a personal list, throwing that Temple one on there. But anybody who's a college hoops fan and remembers when Philly basketball was great, that was a very disappointing day as well. Today, we're going to look at the top 5 worst acquisitions, either free agency or trade, in Philly history since 2000. Lots of honorable mentions in here. Tobias Harris comes to mind, essentially because of the way it ended, 0 points in a playoff game as a starter. Had some okay moments, I guess, for the Sixers, but essentially they chose the combination of him and Ben Simmons over Jimmy Butler. Adam Eaton comes to mind, still blows my mind. He has a World Series ring. Freddie Garcia came in with a ton of hype, didn't live up to it. Of course, Elton Brand was the much hyped free agent signing for the Sixers, and didn't do much. Kerry Williams, remember him? Went out and missed OTAs, his first OTAs with the Eagles, because he was shopping for sconces with his future wife. Chris Webber, obviously, another example of a Philly team getting a guy past his prime. I'm going to put these two guys together, Byron Maxwell and Kiko Alonso. Very much could have made this list. However, the combination of both of them made it possible for the Eagles to trade up to get Carson Wentz, who ultimately helped lead to the first Super Bowl title. And then, of course, James Harden, who it could have worked out, and I think the way the ending just soured, but of course didn't really lead to any success in the playoffs. So those are the honorable mentions. So the top 5 list, starting with number 5, Ilya Brizgalov. Again, another guy who came in with much hype, made more news for his press conference comments, more so than anything. Of course, leaving the Flyers with a gaping hole at goalie, which for the most part of my Flyer fandom has been an issue. Number 4, Jake Arrieta, another guy who came in. I believe he won a Cy Young and just did not live up to the hype. Part of that might have had to do with COVID, but just a guy that was supposed to be a steadying influence alongside Aaron Nola in that rotation and just didn't get it done. Number 3, DeMarco Murray, came off of leading the league in rushing. Chip Kelly was just like, let's bring him in. And he didn't really do much. Could also add guys like Ronnie Brown with him. But DeMarco Murray averaged like 2 yards a carry, and then finally had a good game after Chip Kelly was fired. Number 2 on the list, Andrew Bynum. He shows up a lot on these disappointment lists. And again, a guy that came in with a ton of hype, was supposed to be the answer, and just could never get healthy. Part of it, I guess, is not necessarily 100% on him. It just maybe was a not calculated risk that the front office took. But the bringing in Andrew Bynum directly led to the start of the process. And then, of course, who could forget hurting himself again, bowling. And the number 1 worst acquisition in Philly sports since 2000. Same day they acquired Hunter Pence, the Eagles signed Nnamdi Asomugha, who did absolutely nothing. And part of it could have been the scheme fit. Part of it could have been he just wasn't mentally in it. This guy used to go eat lunch in his car. Didn't really make much of an effort by all accounts, from people inside the building to mingle and bond with his teammates. Again, part of it could have been scheme, but he went from being a lockdown, shutdown corner, the best in the league, to a guy that was getting involved with Hollywood stuff within 2-3 years. So Nnamdi Asomugha is the worst acquisition, in my opinion, in Philadelphia sports since 2000. But who did I miss? Who would you add to that list? So many that you could add. I tried to stay away from draft picks only because we'd have been here for 3 days with some of the horrible draft picks. Some of them will be coming up here just shortly. But let me know your thoughts on the top 5 worst acquisitions in Philly sports since the year 2000. Whether you're coaching Little League, crushing your fantasy league, or just rolling up to a bachelor party like a Philly legend, Lotwin Custom Hype Chains bring the energy. Fully customizable, totally unforgettable, and guaranteed to turn you into the MVP of the moment. Great for teams, groomsmen, or anyone who wants to show off with some serious swagger. Go to Lotwin.com, use the promo code TCCPOD, and get 10% off your own custom hype chain. Lotwin, let's get hyped together. Fantasy football season, those Lotwin custom 3D hype chains would be great for your champion, for your loser, whatever you want to do. Work with them and they'll get it done for you. All right, it is Thursday. Time for Throwback Thursday, brought to you by Beach Caddy. Still not too late to go to the Jersey Shore, and if you're going, be sure to check out Beach Caddy. Let them do the move in, move out for you. Beach Cart Rentals. Use that promo code Jimbo to take 15% off of your order. Time is running out, though, but you still have a few more weeks of summer. All right, so for Throwback Thursday, in honor of Nnamdi Asomugha being the worst acquisition in Philly since 2000, let's take a look back at that 2011 Eagles quote-unquote dream team. There was a lockout, so everything was kind of pushed back a little bit. So the Eagles were looking to spend some money that offseason, and they did. They already had a core specifically on offense with Michael Vick, Deshaun Jackson, LaShawn McCoy. Asante Samuel was on that team, and teaming the two of them up together, Asamoah and Samuel, was supposed to be great, but didn't really work out that way. But the Eagles went out, added Nnamdi, Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie, Jason Babin, Ronnie Brown, Colin Jenkins, and Vince Young. Pretty star-studded, and they were coming off a division in 2010. They were loaded, though, and I think everybody, including fans, experts, everybody, was thinking Super Bowl or bust for this Eagles team. And I remember in training camp when Vince Young made the proclamation, we're like the dream team. I just remember cringing. I remember the media took it and ran with it all over the place. And they were everything but a dream team. And they started off the season 1-4. I do remember they won the first game, and it was sort of... we were like, okay, maybe this is going to be a good year. Then they quickly lost 4 straight. Ended up going 8-8 that year. But so many, I just remember, this was the very end of the Andy Reid era. I remember talking with my principal when I was teaching about the wide nine. Howard Mudd, the wide nine. And the wide nine just did not work out defensively for them. They struggled to find consistency on offense. And then, of course, who could forget Vince Young, the Mr. Dream Team himself, having a chance to be the starter Thursday Night Football against the Seahawks, threw 4 interceptions. So there's your Dream Team, Vince. They did rally late to win their last 4 games, but it was too little, too late. Speaking of the draft picks, Andy and those guys didn't really help the team out. Danny Watkins, the fireman, was the first-round pick, and then Jaquan Jarrett from Temple, just was not. They did get Kelsey in the 6th round of that draft, but ultimately the dream team crashed and burned. It was more of a nightmare. I remember seeing all of the headlines in the Daily News, the nightmare team and things like that. The following year, Eagles went 4-12, led to the end of Andy in Philadelphia. But kids, the lesson here is, if you're going to talk trash and be out there and put yourself out there as a dream team, one, make sure everybody else is on board with it, because I'm sure the rest of the team was not happy with Vince for that. And even more importantly, if you're going to call it the dream team and you get your shot to be a part of that dream, don't throw 4 interceptions on Thursday Night Football. But the 2011 Eagles dream team went 8-8, hardly a dream. Ultimately led to the end of the Andy Reid era, but all started with signing Nnamdi Asamoah, and it just went downhill from there. But that is Throwback Thursday, brought to you by Beach Caddy. Use the promo code Jimbo to take 15% off of your move-in, move-out, and your beach cart rentals. But let me know your thoughts on the dream team. Ultimately, it did work out, albeit a few years later for the Eagles. But man, they were loaded. I mean, it's just from a scheme perspective, Andy Reid was distracted because he had all the issues going on in his home life, but no way that team should have went 8-8. All right, so sticking with the dream team, though, today's trivia question. 3 players started games at quarterback for the Eagles that year. I already gave you one. Who were the 3 starting quarterbacks for the Eagles in 2011? Hit me up on the Discord, Back to the Future voice and text line, and any of my social media. All right, and then finally today, August 7th. What happened this day in Philly sports history on August 7th? First, let's go back to the year 2000. And Ed Wade, who just got inducted into the Phillies Wall of Fame, completed one of the most ridiculous trades in team history. He had, on this day, or I guess previously, he had traded Mickey Morandini to the Blue Jays for a player to be named later. And on this day in 2000, that player was named, and it was Rob Ducey. Okay, no big deal. Like, you're kind of struggling, figuring your way out there. sounds like a legit trade. Until you dive a little bit deeper into this and realize that a few weeks earlier, Ed Wade traded Rob Ducey to the Blue Jays for a player to be named later, who would end up being John Snead. So essentially, the trade was Mickey Morandini for John Snead, and Rob Ducey was traded for himself. Think about that. So Rob Ducey was traded, and then he ended up coming back to the Phillies as a player to be named later. So I don't know if that's an indictment on Rob Ducey, Ed Wade, or what, but just one of the more bizarre trades in Phillies team history. But 1 year later in 2000, the Phillies beat the Padres 7-3. Scott Rowland, Pat Burrell, and Bobby Abreu all homered. Abreu's homer was the 10,000th home run in franchise history. Not sure who counted them all, but there you go. I guess Excel is a great tool. And if you are keeping score at home, like I know a lot of you do, to date, the Phillies have 14,279 home runs in their team history, which is number 9 all time. I'm sure you could guess who number 1 is. A team full of some of the all-time great home run hitters, and that would be the Yankees. But on this day, Bobby Abreu hit the 10,000th home run in Phillies team history. It's 7-3 win over the Padres, which also happened to be Kevin Duckworth's. Remember him, the Duck Pond, his first major league start, and he got the win. And then we're not going to go back too far for the last one here. We're going to go back to 2024. And on this day last year, Phillies beat the Dodgers 9-4, and it was the Kyle Schwarber show. He went 4 for 4 with 3 homers, a double, and 7 RBI. It was the second time that season a Phillies player hit 3 homers in a game. Bryce did it earlier. And it was the first time in team history since 1936 that 2 guys hit 3 home runs in a game. And then to add to that, a few weeks later, Kyle did it again in September. But on this day last year, Phillies beat the Dodgers 9-4. Kyle Schwarber with 3 home runs. Adding that with Bryce's from earlier in the season, first time 2 teammates for the Phillies hit 3 home runs in the same season, in the same game since 1936. I mentioned Clashing Conferences. We are a proud member of the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network here at This Day in Philly Sports History. Check us out on the new members pod that dropped today, wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And then go to clashingconferences.com to see how you can get involved and join. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, review, hit me up on social media, all of the other good stuff for This Day in Philly Sports History. All of that helps to outsmart the algorithm, but be sure to do all that. Specifically comment. If you want to see anything or feedback, I'm very open to that. Constructive criticism, unless you're the guy on TikTok from yesterday who's telling me that my feelings are not valid. I just don't think that's very nice. On this day in 2024, Kyle Schwarber hit 3 home runs in the Phillies' 9-4 win over the Dodgers. Bobby Abreu hit the Phillies' 10,000th home run in franchise history on this day in 2001. And then a year earlier, Ed Wade completed one of the most bizarre trade when Rob Ducey came back to the Phillies a couple weeks after being traded for the Phillies. So essentially, he was traded for himself. I guess. I don't know. It's just a weird dynamic. But we will have more on the Eagles-Bengals preseason game, let you know who played, who did well, who didn't do well. We'll probably still do the GOAT of the game just because I like it. But let me know your thoughts on the worst acquisitions. Did I miss anybody? Should anybody else be added to the list? No Phillies tonight. Let them rest up. Rest those arms. Going up to the Iron Pigs tomorrow. So I don't know where it stands, but it is possible. I could see Aaron Nola tomorrow. Could see David Robertson. Possibly even Jose Alvarado. So I'll keep you posted on that on Monday on who we get to see. But this has been This Day in Philly Sports History for August 7th, 2025. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Thursday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.